I'm sitting here in my flight cockpit and want to take you along on a journey using imagination. So this is the view from our flight cockpit. With the swallows cruising by. I have my arm relaxed on the windowsill of the cockpit here, like this, and holding the camera like that. So off we go. For a change, there's no stripes on the sky, which is a rather unusual sight for a change. Good sign, maybe. So if you think about how our conventional private transport has been happening up to now, unless you're a millionaire and have your own private jet or something, most of us have been using the flat plane not as in flying plane, airplane, but XY axis flat, two-dimensional flat ground plane, traffic, trains, cars, you name it. But if you consider your place where you're at right now as the off-ramp into the upward plane, like the z-axis, x, y, z, 1, 2, 3, dimensional, upwards, downwards to land, but upwards. And then also maybe, like I'm in this cockpit with you now, I wonder where all the cruising swallows have gone, because I was going to show you the crazy cruising here. They were just having an excursion of flying in pairs or couples, or maybe the parents taking their young out on a practicing flight. It was very spectacular. And in the evening sometimes you even have the bats doing the same thing after dark. And the swallows just got swallowed somewhere now. Anyway, maybe they'll return. Also this perspective of just having available the top of the trees right now enforces this offshoot ramp visual while I'm sitting in my flight cockpit on my balcony, imagining the surrounding apartments non-existent and the ones under me also not. So it's basically a floating apartment, which then is not too far away from what may await us in the future. In the near future, if Elon Musk is speeding up and all tech giants release whatever they are creating for us for this new golden age, where your birthright could include all of those basic needs, freeing up space in your mind and creativity to then do what you really want and what your abilities are, which are mainly blocked by having to take care of everyday things to survive and meet your basic needs. So if you are free in your imagination, as you always are, and just eliminate all those what ifs and yes but and I can only and won't and but and so on, which is, by the way I freed myself from several cul-de-sac situations that I found myself in when the pressure gets too much and the situation's too extreme, and maybe your only way out seems self-destruction, addiction, or which is the same thing basically, but actually for the soul. Here they're back. Hey, you see there our pioneer pilots showing. That was a whole family passing by. Oh. So I won't change the perspective out of our cockpit window right now. Nikon, as my dog is arriving, he'll bark just now, smelling good girl. Another dog walking past down there. But we're up here now, so I don't want to cause a crash landing by showing the flat dimensions of the ground, because we're up here now with the swallow birds, our companions, the artist acrobats of flight, way ahead of where we may be one day soon in our private mobility. So this private mobility expansion options, and affordable if it's our birthright, like housing, mobility, clothing, as we're born naked, that's not our fault. So we need shelter, we need. But if that's all taken care of, to free up our creative space in our mind, plus added a few plugs pulled that are blocking us right now still, we would thrive on our lived creativity and handmade manufacturing and creating and so on, because even if, or especially if AI is taking care of all the everyday monotonous tasks that are exhausting to us and stifling, especially then handmade items will be a very valuable currency, because the irregularity of handmade creations, whether it's repair or all these handyman tasks or handmade crafts and all of those, they include matter enriched by soul, which the human creativity is able to incorporate there, but not machines. While I might print your trousers if you need them now, one may look like the next in its precision, but handmade has this kind of charming irregularity of handmade. So I think the time will come where stifled handmade artists and craftsmen, handymen, as the guardian of our shuttle had to crash the air, we're back on our flight now, because he's in our shuttle also, and if something passes by that he doesn't see but smell, it's okay, Rico. Hey. especially if I'm busy here with the flight documentation. He feels he has to take responsibility to fend off dangers, which is good in our future shuttle bubble. Nein, Rico? Reicht. So. Yeah. Okay, I'll give you a quick peek. This is how I have to extend myself there. And this is another window to the... Oh, it's a bit dark there. Anyway, that's where my guardian is guarding the exit of the shuttle. So now, with the new technology arising, maybe around, who knows, but I think not too far away, I hope. That would mean, if we're back in our imagination now, that we don't even have to figure out where we need to live or want to live. No, we can figure out where we prefer to be, by vegetation or landscape. Do we prefer ocean or mountains, dry or juicy, lush vegetation? We've seen from our excursions and hikes which climate and vegetation and mentality, if we want to include the people, what is in harmony with our own needs or in sync. And if we don't know, it doesn't matter, because with this new mobility that I'm imagining here, we don't even have to decide, because we then can explore. And it's not either or, like give up your apartment or property or house or farmhouse, or you're allowed to have this floating mobile tiny house or big house or whatever your heart's desire. But in terms of mobility, not just as a vehicle, but also to be able to stay and live in it if you reach a point of excursion where you feel like staying for longer. Hovering over the ground a few centimeters so it doesn't touch and destroy the vegetation, but you can step in and out comfortably. Look, the swallows, here they come. The swarms and families. Nein, es reicht. We're not having another crash landing now. Nein. Aus. Sorry. We're torn between dimensions here and the flat plane of crash landing barking. Wow, I don't know if you can see or if it's too small, but there's a whole lot of swallows playing with the thermic upwinds just now and tumbling in the air like that. You can see how they are masters of sailing, air sailing. Yeah, so the point being, amongst many of these imaginary excursions, to include and transport the upward plane where we are free of the ground-borne stuckness, the joint heavy movement, and then also experience that feeling in this current no stuckness, if you want, because you can always have a separate little sitting compartment where you imagine that it's your little bubble, which can also move upwards, even if you just change perspectives and not look in the smartphone all the time, but upwards for a change, like we're having this perspective now, with the point of the roof being the arrow pointing forwards there, upwards. Yeah, in that way, the freedom of exploring, of traveling, of visiting, of finding your niche, of where you feel you want to be often or spend time often, can be liberated, and the ground, the concrete, the tar roads and all of that can just be restored to natural lush vegetation also, maybe for cattle to graze and creeks to flow and just to enjoy, and it's like one big garden then, one big garden joining onto the next with no concrete bridges like gaps of how to overcome right now on foot, me and my dog, when we are reaching our favorite park basically. It's like I'm stepping from oasis to oasis, but have to overcome the concrete intermediate sections, which basically steal all the recharged energy, because it's just sucking out life force. I can totally feel it. And so if this overcoming of undesired distances or unfavorable environments, which won't really exist then anymore, but just, could be your favorite neighbor lives on another continent, that's not a problem anymore to visit and to voluntarily want to get to know other cultures by visiting and not by being pushed in your own field, So those own fields by frequency will basically sort themselves out naturally, because you feel where you can thrive and where conditions are adverse. And this mobility upwards plane inclusion, it's basically to connect back to the situation we're finding ourselves in now, in whatever living situation. If in this imaginary travel flight experiment here we see our current living space as the offshoot ramp for this mobile floating tiny house shuttle bubble, which can dock on by the edge of the balcony, and you can comfortably step in there. Don't even... Nein. Dog is signaling again. Then you don't even have to walk through the passage or any stairs or anything like that, where you might meet the neighbors, and also you may not even spend as much time in your current home, because it's maybe just your base where you store some materials or finished created items or materials or tools or like that, and then fly off to your favorite spots all charged up with the necessary supplies of food, and your moving currency being all your craftsmanship stuff that you trade or sell wherever you go. And that way a much greater flow and flux is happening. And also, one thing you might be wondering, and maybe give an input on how that could look. If we now look in the sky and see all these swallows cruising there, and we would then look in the sky and have all these tiny house mobile floats floating there, that might be quite a different experience to look in the sky. Are they going to be somehow silver coated to reflect the ground, and you just see trees as a reflection, or the sky as a reflection, and they wouldn't really be visible, and they would be soundless? so that there wouldn't be any optical, visual and sound pollution. I would imagine they would be camouflaged according to the environment in the sky, so that we wouldn't have suddenly like some kind of a fair thing, all these different things floating around in the air. And then there would be self-maintaining, self-cleaning, self-ventilating, self-condensating water and recycling stuff and all of that. So no pollution output and just all pleasant and liberating. What do you think?